then we'll just see how it goes. Okay, so we're talking about multiplication and division, and we are talking about the three things that you need in order to have a multiplication equation or a division equation. We also can say division number sentence, multiplication number sentence, but the more sophisticated way to say this is multiplication equation. So whenever you see that, you know that you need to have two factors. You got to memorize these words. And the answer to a multiplication problem, which is called a product. So that's for a multiplication equation. You've got two factors, two numbers that you're going to multiply together to give you your answer or your product. For a division equation, you are going to have two numbers. Those are also called your factors. And the answer to the division problem is called your quotient. I say, you say quotient. And that simply means the answer to your division problem. Your product is the answer to your multiplication problem. Okay? So we're talking about sorry, I have to erase this. The difference between those two, the similarities between those two, and also what are the three things, pieces of information that you need to know in any of those problems. What do they represent? What do those factors represent? Another way you can think about it is, what do those factors mean? What do they represent? What do they mean? They're not just numbers. They mean something. And we use pictures or we use an array to help us figure out what those factors mean, what they represent. So, for example, let's say I have an array and I can do a multiplication and a division sentence or equation based on what we see here, this array. Okay? For now, because it will change eventually, but for now, we are saying that when you have a group in an array, your group is the row. That's one group. That's two groups. That's three groups. That's four groups. Your group is your row. So when I say, what's the number of groups in an array, I'm talking about how many rows do you have. And you simply have to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. Now, when I'm talking about the size of the group, you have to think about what's inside each group. So the size of the group is how many are in each group. Each means single. It doesn't mean how many are in all the groups in total. We want to know how many is in a single group. In one group, what is the size of it? How many are inside the group? So the size of this group would be 3. 1, 2, 3. So for now, we are saying that this first factor in a multiplication equation is the number of groups. Can this change eventually? Yes, we can look at it with columns, but right now we're just talking about rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. The answer for this factor is 4, the number of groups. The number of groups times the size of the group How many are inside each group? 1, 2, 3. That's your other factor. Finally, what is our product? What is the answer? 4 groups of 3 in each group. Well, if you know that already, you've memorized it, great. If you don't, you can say 3, 6, 9, 12. So you're counting by, or another way to say that is you're skip counting by 3. The total number is 3. That's your product. That would be your multiplication sentence. However, let's look up here and make a division sentence. In a division sentence or equation, you always start with the total number. So if you notice, we're taking part, whole. But in division, you're starting with the total. You're starting with the whole. So that number is 12. Now, we're going to divide up the total number into smaller groups. Well, let's take a look. We can say 12 divided by the number in each group, the size of the group, the number inside each group. You can say it as many different ways as you want. You got to know the size is what is inside each group. So if I divide 12 by 3, the size, then I have what's left, my unknown, represents the number of groups. Total, size of group, the only thing the unknown could possibly represent would be the number of groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. So look at that. How are those related? The product